Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ethereum Core Dev meeting number 104. I'm your host, Hudson, and today we're going to be going over, first of all, YOLO v3 and the Berlin client updates. If you click on YOLO v3, it'll come up with the client spec, and you can also go back, and there's a new spec document that I think James and Micah worked on for Berlin. So I'm going to post that into chat. And that one kind of goes through a checklist and a readiness checklist for clients, for people who are curious, and we'll get some of that confirmed today. So I'll give this to James to talk to people about.
Yep. So we can, I wrote up the network specification. This is a lot like the hard fork EIPs we had in the EIP repo, but now in the ETH1 spec seed pro, because we're keeping those kind of worlds separate. And if you go through it, where we are is the final EIPs implemented into Geth, and then deploying YOLO v3, getting like a security green light, and proposing fork block for testnets. So I was hoping to get an update on the status for the 2718, 2930 testing and implementation. If Martin is here, or whoever would like to on the Geth team.
Yeah, so my response will be a bit underwhelming. I don't know, because Martin was mostly the one who pioneered these parts, and I was mostly focusing on just getting our next release out. So maybe if Martin shows up, you'll have an answer.
I can speak to a little bit of it, since he and I have been working on it. So we've been working on generally just like unit test style stuff, but he just updated transaction T8N tool to support the new transaction type. So hopefully we can get reference tests soon. Yeah, that's the phase we're at.
Cool. And 2930 is a new transaction type, so it makes sense we would have to have new different kind of tests that we haven't had before, because we've always had one.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what's going on, is figuring out what to do about that?
Yeah, actually, Daniel, we also need to support something on our end, right? We support T8N tool.
We support retest death. That was the original spec, and that's what we were running off of. I don't know if the retest death tools go to support the RPCs or not. That's to be determined. But if Get's not interested in supporting retest death, then we should move to the T8N.
Hi, sorry, I'm a bit late. We do support retested, just not the retested legacy API.
The one that was originally spec, that's the retest death with the HTTP stuff. You have the T8N CLI, so I consider those two separate things.
All right, but retested is retested is a tool, but you're referring to the retested API specification. But
Right.
The retested tool is now able to use a binary like this state transition tool as a backend instead of the RPC API.
Yeah, because you wouldn't support the legacy API, so that's why we're moving there.
Yes.
So Martin,
Okay.
we're going over, I guess Rai was going over some of the testing stuff, and once he's done, you can kind of fill in the gaps for any other updates.
For the 2718, 2930, the like testing updates for that.
Yeah, that was all I had.
Oh, okay.
Cool. So we've kind of focused a lot on getting this done to go for YOLO v3, but I'm kind of thinking it would be good as a group to consider looking at setting fork blocks for testnets in sort of like a parallel path. So previously it was sort of like a linear path of you do YOLO v3, then we wait a while, and then we do the fork blocks. But I think it would be, or I would open it to feedback to start independently talking about fork blocks and when we could or could not expect setting them.
Yes, so I would kind of agree that it might be good to try to, yeah, schedule something. This approach about just rolling it out when it's ready, I had high hopes for it, but I'm not sure it's gonna pan out as I had hoped. So it might be, yeah, might be actually time to try to schedule something.
And
Is there-
just to be clear, yeah, would it make sense to have, the, say we scheduled a testnet blocks, it needs to be a few weeks away anyways, obviously we need to finish the work, but even past that, you need to put out a release and then people need time to download and update that release. So it feels like in parallel to like, when that release is being deployed and adopted by people, we can also have YOLO v3 and run the fuzz testing on it to make sure everything's good. Does that generally make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Is there a sense for how, like a band of when we should start thinking about it, like anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, or something that, given your knowledge of how much is left or what needs to be done, we could start looking at for targets?
Yeah, it's kind of a chicken and egg problem.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Would it be easier? I know theoretically we can set them in parallel to YOLO. Would people feel more comfortable just setting them after YOLO?
Yes.
Well, and also we can do it not after YOLO's. We can do it after YOLO's launched, but also just when we know YOLO's launching.
Yeah, when the features are ready, or whatever, however that's defined. When the chicken and egg, when the egg is hatched, or the chicken and has the egg, whichever one.
Yes. Should we then decide on when to launch YOLO v3?
That sounds good, as long as we have a fairly confident estimate of when the rest of the EIPs and Geth would get done. Because I think that was just reviewing stuff that's already been written, right?
Sorry, what was the question?
Oh, so it's EIP 2718 and 2930 and Geth. Those are implemented, just not reviewed, right? Or
Yeah, well, it's both. It goes hand in hand.
okay.
There is still implementation ongoing, and it's being reviewed as well. But I mean, I pushed code to that PR as late as last night.
Oh, cool. Okay. So, in that case, to your question of should we set a date for YOLO v3, I think in my opinion, I think we could, because then if things mess up and we have to change it, that's not too bad to change or anything, but it at least sets us a goal and a expectation.
We don't really need to set a date, right? It just, whenever, as soon as it goes up, and then once we're comfortable, we can set fork blocks.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, YOLO doesn't need to be like, yeah, we don't need to say like, oh, we're gonna launch YOLO on this date. Just launch it, and then people will join. The clients will join.
Right, but
We can also decide on the fork block async, right? Like I think once we're in a spot where we can launch YOLO, which means that the work's basically been merged in Geth, I feel like we could probably have, say, I don't know, like something like 4 weeks from there for the testnet fork block, gives like 2-ish weeks for clients to ship a release, and it gives 2-ish weeks for after that people to update their nodes. That doesn't necessarily have to be like we should obviously confirm it on a call, but we can make the decision and just add that the clients whenever.
Yeah, but I would like to at least set an expectation. So, right, I think it would be really cool if we could get the testing and get the YOLO version of V3 running the coming week if we work together
Okay.
to get B2 and GEF on it. Do you think that would be reasonable?
Yeah, I think so.
And not necessarily making it into the mainline GEF, the PR, but I mean, I think it's fully sufficient if it runs off the PR. It might need some more weeks to actually get it merged to ensure mainnet safety and stuff. It doesn't screw up things.
And how are you in your model? What's your like dependency structure between the reference tests and launching YOLO? Because we might need to, maybe that 1 week is not realistic if we need to do extra support for TN tool.
Right, no. But we don't need to have the reference tests when we ship YOLO v3.
Perfect.
I mean,
Yeah, no, that's what I was asking. I was just asking if you saw that as a dependency or not, but okay, if you don't, then yeah.
No, I don't.
Great.
Okay, so it's go ahead, James.
That'll be a goal for next Friday, and then for next call we can talk async as we know more about things for fork blocks, and then talk more about it next all core devs. You're muted.
Oh, just so I understand though, so yeah, we're gonna launch YOLO v3 when we launch it. As far as the async convo for fork block, that can happen immediately after YOLO's launched. Is that kind of what we're doing, or do we want YOLO to run for a little bit before we start talking asyncly about it?
I'd say let's focus on having YOLO v3 be the launch for this next week, and then the week after that is we can start talking about. We can start bringing it up. I don't think it's worth.
Yeah, no, we don't not setting a date at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the following week, we should start thinking and talking about it.
Okay, sounds good to me. Anyone else have comments? Okay, James, what other pieces do we need to talk about today for YOLO v3 or Berlin?
That's all.
Okay. Next up on the agenda are other EIPs or discussion items. If you refresh your agendas, everybody, I just added a request for EIP 2937 update from Light Client, who's here today. But first, let's talk about the Ice Age and future network upgrades, because that was requested, I guess. And the gist of it is that according to EIP 2384, the Ice Age will be back around July 2021. So will there be another hard fork? And if so, I think we should start planning. Would love to hear what the core devs think, is the comment. So who has, does anyone have like just initial feelings on this? Otherwise I can kind of take us a direction.
So just to be clear, I confirmed the number over the past week with TJ Rush from QuickBlocks. So the July 2021 number is accurate.
Oh, good.
So in the past, when there has been a large price swing that has significantly increased or affected the guess, does that play a role here? Because I'm surprised that the original guess is still right, given that we had a massive price swing.
To be clear, what does the price swing have to do with it? Does it just make
more miners come in, and so for the time during which the hash rate goes up quicker than the difficulty adjusts, so it creates blocks quicker for a short period of time. And so it's, I guess, if you get multiple price swings, you get multiple phases.
Not just that, but if your hash rate is higher, you can actually artificially keep the Ice Age happening by pushing out when the Ice Age would show and when it would be too far, because it uses the hash rate as a function within the Ice Age formula. So if you have a big hash rate, the Ice Age will be smaller longer.
It'll move it out at best 2 weeks to 4 weeks.
Yeah. But yeah, so if that's it would be great to see some of the like calculations or stuff he'd use. But that would be
Sure, I can
good to
share
share
the
as well.
Yeah, I'll share the repo here in the comments. I didn't write this code, but it's what we used last time, I believe. And it seems like, yeah, as of now, there's no like acceleration, if you want, of it kicking in. But this could obviously change.
Okay. If anyone has comments, just speak up. But otherwise, I would say this. I mean, clearly, I don't believe this would be going into Berlin at this point. I think there would be another hard fork that would happen later on, before the ice age would hit, or as it's hitting, or basically doing our best to avoid and estimate when we can get a hard fork in that has some sort of significance and isn't just an ice age delay. That's kind of my gut reaction.
And can we just disable the ice age once and for all and not return to this topic in the future?
No.
I strongly disagree. Yeah. I guess the reason is one, I think we've actually found it useful as a forcing function for forks in the past. Two, with the transition to proof of stake happening in the merge, I think we want it. It creates a barrier for anyone who wants to not upgrade when there's an upgrade, that they need to maintain a fork and at least remove the difficulty bomb. And they don't get to like just stay on the network and block progress. So I think the fact that it, both for us as the core devs, it helps us like ship stuff. But I think for anyone who wants to oppose or something, it creates a not very high, but a barrier to entry. And it means they actually at least have to like fork the client, remove the ice age, and share whatever changes that they want. Yeah.
And but you can always make an EIP, then we can talk about it. I would agree with that. We should keep it, and we should not, and we should address it when it's showing up.
There's probably is an EIP already to remove it. I remember we talked about this last time. Yeah.
I believe I created one a while back. I don't know if it's still open though.
Yeah, Peter, what's up?
So I just wanted to add a quick few comments. On one end, I don't think we should touch it for Berlin, simply because if it's not too urgent, then it's fine to have a second fork. And another good part of delaying it a bit and forcing ourselves to do another hard fork is that there is some so essentially with this 1559 and a few of these, so there are some conflicts on Twitter. So not everybody is fully agreeing with 1559. And people have different opinions, different rationalizations, but there are certain fears that 1559 could cause some trouble. And actually having the Ice Age fork happening and forcefully happening in a few months can actually help us to solve any issues. So generally, if 1559 legit introduces some issues, I don't know which ones now, I don't want to be specific, but if we legit have some issues, then kind of the Ice Age forces us or gives us an opportunity to actually handle that issue really quickly. Versus if it's just one of those annoying issues, but we don't have anything to force miners to upgrade or force people to upgrade, then it's a lot harder to address any potential issues. So I think in our current position, it might be valuable to not touch the Ice Age for Berlin.
But you understand that the Ice Age delay, it's like what, a one-line change in the code. I'm pretty sure that all the dissenting parties, they will have the resources to change that one line and live without Ice Age on the fork chain.
I think you're underestimating the distribution, right? Like, yes, it's easy to change in the code, but then you need a way for people, you need to get that release to users and they need to adopt it. And
That code needs to
And they
live
need to
somewhere,
trust.
and people need to be able to find it, and they need to be able to trust it.
Yeah, the trust I think is the hardest part. Like, it's just some random dude on the internet who's anonymous from China publishes a version of Geth that supposedly has Ice Age removed. How many miners around the world are going to download that?
We've had every hard fork. We've had Ethereum Gold and Ethereum Diamond and all kinds of scams that actually, some of them are actually smart contracts that people go and check on, and they get trusted enough to go in and actually people give their private keys over. So yeah, I'm on the anti-scam side of things. Whatever can be done to most prevent that, I guess.
Yeah, and all in all, truth be told, the Ice Age, if we're thinking about it long term, I kind of agree here with everybody that the original purpose of the Ice Age was to switch over, to force the devs to switch over to Serenity. Now it seems a bit weird that we're going to kill the Ice Age right before actually getting to that point. So we might as well, if we stuck it out for 5 years, we might as well go all in and just leave it.
Yeah, but I am curious, Artem, because the original purpose of this is still set and it's still doing what its purpose was, is your argument, just so I understand it, that it's kind of annoying and it's forcing people into something they don't need to be forced into?
Yeah, it actually causes us to waste time on this.
Oh, the discussion, or
on discussions, on fixing it, on delaying Ice Age,
I think we find
and
plenty
doing an
of better
emergency
ways to
hard
waste
fork
time.
when we forget about Ice Age, for example.
that's true. That kind of sucked, but I feel like that's not going to happen again, because at least not this time, because we're early enough in the process that we've figured out the date. So
I hope so.
yeah, as long as we get it right and it doesn't shift drastically. But I mean, nothing's guaranteed.
We haven't forgot about it today. It's pretty good.
Okay, so I'm seeing mostly, pretty much, I guess most of us are saying that, yeah, we're not going to put the Ice Age into Berlin, definitely, and then we need to evaluate in the future, when another hard fork that would either, depending on what EIPs are out there, because I guess an EIP will need to be made for, um, delaying the Ice Age, versus disabling it versus anything else people have ideas about. Um, and so that can happen later.
And
Does
Micah,
anyone want to just volunteer to making an EIP to delay the Ice Age, just to get the conversation started?
I can do it.
It's one of the easiest EIPs to create, so
Yeah, I can do it. And then to your point of it, if the price of ETH goes up, it's more likely for the Ice Age to be delayed further than to accelerate.
Okay. I got it backwards.
Okay. Is there any other comments on this before we go ahead? Okay. The next up is EIP 2937 update. That is the EIP for set indestructible opcode. I think Vitalik is the author. He's not here, but who else was working on this? Light Client, maybe you know some stuff?
Yeah, there's two people that have been working on it. I don't think they made it to the meeting today, but I know that Martin had some comments on it last time, and there is a discussion on ETH Magician still. I think ironing one part of that out. There's a PR to adjust the specification. So I didn't know if anyone had any other comments on this EIP.
So yeah, so I posted some questions on the forum, and I'm not sure. Was it you who answered, or who was it that gave the answers? Because I'm not sure if, like,
No, it wasn't me. It was
yeah, because I couldn't figure out if the answers were like the canonical answers from the someone who actually they were like, I think that blah blah. But I'm wondering what
okay.
the actual answer is. to these questions, because it's kind of hard to. I mean, I could not, based on the specification, I could not implement this in Get if I wanted to, because I think it's too much that is not explicitly said.
Yeah, yeah. So the person who responded is one of the people who've written an implementation for it. And during the implementation, there were a few small changes to the specification from how Vitalik originally wrote it. It was originally written with, a globals variable that stored every address that called indestructible within like the transaction call graph. And what they decided to do is to scope it to the frame of execution and also propagate up these whenever it was called within like a delegate call or a call code. So that should be updated on the spec on a pull request to the spec, but Vitalik hasn't been able to approve it yet.
Yeah, because like some of the things, like what is supposed to happen if I delegate call a contract which immediately says set indestructible? Which, I mean, and that's the intent, like you're not supposed to be able to destroy a library. So every well-behaving library will do this. But
yeah, so if you delegate call into it, it should not allow the address that the code is executing under to self-destruct. Because if you were to ever call the library directly where its address is, the executing context, then the set indestructible would protect that address.
But I mean,
yes.
Martin has a point there, right? Because that would mean that if we implement that way, then you could basically, if you as your contract relies on you using self-destruct at some point, you could not use libraries that start with set indestructible, at least not if they kind of are part of every execution path. Because then you can't be self-destruct anyway as well. The question is maybe that should not happen. So maybe like right, because the library would still be
right,
protected,
and
even
that,
if it
and that becomes a bit problematic, because in the EVM execution context, you have the address, which is the current executing address. You have, but one thing I think you maybe not always have is that the current address where I picked the code, but I'm not actually executing under. But what the E basically says is that if you are if you run into a set indestructible and the code is from somewhere else and not actually at the address where you are currently executing, then you should ignore it.
I think right now the AP says the opposite. No, I thought that right now the AP basically says if you delegate call somewhere else and then that call's set indestructible, then the call context address becomes indestructible for the rest of the call.
I mean, that's kind of vague in the E, and that's what I tried to ask for more clarification on. It says as the current callee to the global indestructible. And what is the current callee in, for example, a delegate call? Is the current,
Yeah, that's okay. That's a good point. We can work on making it more clear, and I mean that is a good point with the libraries. I wasn't really sure how most contracts implement the self-destruct functionality. Like, are they always delegate calling into something, and that this has kind of like all of the functionality? In which case, yeah, that doesn't really work, because then you aren't able to self-destruct your wallet or something.
But just to be clear, by the way, the PR that I also put the link to in the chat that Light Client mentioned, that indeed kind of clarifies the language around callee. So that's no longer kind of this whole kind of sentence with callee is removed, and instead it's very explicit about what happens in case of a delegate call and everything. So it's still an open question. Is that the behavior that we would want to happen? But at least it's I would say well specified now in the PR.
Okay, Ansgar, was it you who answered my question on the forum?
No. I think it's one of the two. Like
Okay,
I think Lightline, if you want to give some context there, I think there was like some. So sorry, was that?
No, I finally saw on the PR there's actually a name for who. Angela Lu wanted to answer and made the PR to update it.
Yeah, Angela Liu and another person, Tyler, has been helping implement this, learning about implementing things in Geth.
Cool. Anything else on this?
I think that's it. We'll work on getting it better specified and then think about how to address the issue with the using libraries and how to self-destruct the code that's calling them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be good if the specification was written more hands-on with the well-defined terms such as address of the current executing contract, and
Okay.
because even the PR now says if contract X does delegate call C and self-destruct, but that's a bit too high level in my opinion. I mean, it's good with high level description, but it should also be a low level technical specification. So at any given point, you know exactly what to do, and not like have to try to figure out did I arrive here by a delegate call? Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Martin.
Micah, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, can we get, going forward in general and specifically for this, can we get a channel in Discord for each EIP that's going into an upcoming hard fork? There's usually relatively, by the time they get to the hard fork, we're usually down to like 2 or 3, so I don't think it'll be too big of a burden on channels. We can delete them afterwards. But I think it'd be nice to have a place, like when Martin just wants a quick answer for something like this, he can just pop in that channel and ask, and the right people are there.
I mean, I think it's fine with the forum, except when the forum grows stale. But if the forum grows stale, then probably the Discord would also grow stale.
I think that's a good idea, Micah, for certain major EIPs for sure. Beyond that, I'm skeptical the value, like Martin's kind of saying.
Okay.
But we can always try it once we come to like a medium-sized EIP or one that's having a lot of ACD discussion. No problem trying it for something in the future. But this one sounds like it's active enough in the forums.
Yeah, P1559 has 3 of them.
For better or for worse.
For better or for worse. Yeah. Okay. So, I think that's the last thing on the agenda. Does anyone have anything else?
I had a small thing. So as I guess people know by now, I'll be taking over all core devs soon from Hudson. And one of the things I've been doing in the meantime is reaching out to folks who are involved with the process to get their feedback about how it's going and how we can improve it. And thoughts just in general on all core devs. If you have strong opinions on this or just want to chat about it, yeah, please reach out. Happy to take some time to chat. And over the next couple of weeks, I'll try to put most of the feedback I've received together and share it back here. Yeah.
Sounds good. And so they can probably reach you on Discord, and if not Discord, Telegram, and if not Telegram, Twitter DMs, and if not Twitter DMs, ham radio.
Yeah, Discord and Twitter is the best. My DMs are open on Twitter. I'm on the ETH-R&D Discord. Yeah.
Cool. What's your ham radio sign, or whatever they call it?
I won't dox myself on that.
Wait, wavelength? Do I need a wavelength? I feel like I need a wavelength.
Wavelength, yeah. Don't get on the one that's just sea shanties all the time. There's a new one for that. Okay, so that's it for this call. Thanks, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.